10 p.m. on the East Coast, 7 p.m. on the West Coast. I'm Alicia Menendez, and this is Fusion's coverage of the 2016 elections. We're still awaiting results from some key states, but right now Trump is leading the electoral map with 137 votes. Clinton has 104. U.S. stock futures tumble amid the uncertainty, and the Mexican peso has plunged by the most in 8 years. Just now, polls closed in Nevada, Iowa, Montana, and Utah. Let me turn things over to the panel. All right, in the interest of full transparency, our team is in the control room. They're watching everyone else's coverage, and it seems that the big narrative of the moment is, holy moly, Donald Trump might actually pull this off. So, Mark Beatty, you are a numbers person, so we turned this over to you to see if you actually buy into that narrative. Is that something that the press is pushing, or is it something that's actually happening? So I think based on the numbers that have come in so far, it looks like the election is going to be close. And it looks like this is something where we might be here for a while. I think, though, that what I said at the beginning is still true, which is Clinton still has more paths to 270 than Trump does, and it looks like she's holding a lead in the places that she needs in order to get to 270. And so if you look at places like Wisconsin and Michigan and Virginia, where there's still votes to be counted, in Northern Virginia, which always comes in late, she's still where she needs to be to get to 268. And then if she wins those states, then she just needs to win one toss-up state in order to get over 270. It could be Florida, which is still close. Ohio looks relatively less likely. Iowa is probably less likely, but it could be New Hampshire and it could be Nevada. Any of those states would put her over 270. So I think the story right now is that it looks like it's going to be closer than some people might have expected coming into Election Day, and we might be here for a while, but that she's still in a good position. Jason, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I always thought that this would be close. I think I've
always...
All
right, bragger.
I'm serious. I always thought it was going to be close in the popular vote and possibly not so close in the Electoral College. But I think the most interesting thing is this, from the data I've seen, is her underperformance with white voters. I always assumed that you had a lot of white people in America who weren't going to vote for Obama. I mean, he was elected in 2012 with 38% of the white vote, which is the lowest that anyone has ever gotten and still gotten elected. I assumed Hillary Clinton would be 43, 44%. She may not get to that number and still end up being elected president. And that's a very, very challenging thing for both Republicans and Democrats going forward.
And that's a question that I want to come back to later in the evening, which is, have Democrats focused on minority communities at their own peril by not making a similar investment with white voters? But Rashad, before I get to that conversation, I want to ask you, do you think that Democrats thought they had made inroads with the African-American community? Do you think they took that vote for granted to make up the margin necessary that they might need with white voters?
Well, I think, when President Obama got elected, so much of the infrastructure around investing in black communities, investing in independent black infrastructure went into the party. Folks thought, well, Obama's got it. And he actually never was able to translate his turnout vehicle during midterms or down ballot during municipal elections. And so what we are seeing here is also sort of what needs to happen in terms of a rebuilding of independent infrastructure for black communities, for Latino communities, because quite frankly, there's been this idea that Obama alone could do it. And so now we are in this moment that we are in every election cycle where we get this thing as like, will black communities turn out at the levels that the Democratic Party needs? And not the conversation of what have the Democrats delivered for black communities, where they actually have a reason to turn out and a reason to be invested in what the Democratic Party has to offer.
I think Izzy's going to give you an amen.
So I think you're totally right, and I just want to point to Cleveland, Cuyahoga County. Democrats were down in the early voting by 11,000 votes. She brought Jay-Z, she brought an all-star power, and she could not turn out Cleveland, which is heavily African-American. So that goes to show that you can't just take any community, Asian, yellow, white, whatever color you are. You matter, and candidates matter, and you have to fight for every vote.
But I think we have to be really clear.
I think
yes,
also voter suppression.
Yes, exactly.
You can't
so
just
for
say
everything is voter suppression. So because she's not having the turnout, she's having voter suppression.
When you have like 30 places to vote one year and you have 7 the next year, that actually makes a difference one way or another. When you have a state governor and you have a secretary of state who's like, we're going to end early voting for a week, when you have one place to vote for souls to the polls on Sunday, which is no other reason than to try to screw over black people, to be candid with you, that ends up mattering. Now, again, we don't know. I never thought Ohio was going to go for Hillary Clinton anyway, but we've got to stop this ridiculous blame game. Oh, it's the Latinos. Oh, it's the African Americans.
Yes,
there are some structural things that have been happening here to depress the vote. We can't blame blame the victims.
And the
And at the
Republican
same-
parties will not get these votes. That's the thing. And so while the Democrats can't rely on the toxicity of the Republican Party, it's not like the Republican Party is actually an open space or open arms. Even the most moderates did not stand up to Donald Trump's racism, and it will be on tape. It will be on record for generations to come. And so neither one of the parties
So
get a
I-
pass.
I
on
agree.
that.
Lizzie gets the last word on this, and then we got to wrap.
I agree with you. I think Republicans should have come stronger and said, you know, this is my moral character and this is what I stand for. I don't stand for. I want that in a Republican. But at the end of the day, I think we're not going to win the black and white, the black, Asian, Hispanic vote holistically. But Republicans are making the gains that make them win elections. Rubio just won in Florida. People would have argued Rubio was going to be a tough race. That was for him. He won his state, and he won it with the Hispanic vote.
That's not these pieces of disbelief. We're going to have to wait until after our next break because I have another projection for you. We want to pull up here. Montana being projected for Donald Trump. Everyone here laughing because that was pretty much a foregone conclusion, but we like to keep you on the edge of your seat. Now, I want to toss things over to my colleague, Nando Vila. Nando?
Thank you so much.